The California State PTA Toolkit explains the PTA audit. Go to toolkit.capta.org, click on the Finance tab, and drop down to PTA Audit. The toolkit contains information on the audit schedule, the purpose of an audit, preparation for an audit, audit procedure and recommendations, and the audit report. It also contains a job description for a PTA auditor. The PTA auditor is an elected PTA officer and member of the PTA Executive Board. If an auditor was not elected, one may be appointed or hired. The auditor must be impartial and not related to the president, financial officers, or any PTA check signer or chairman that handles PTA funds. Audits are performed at times specified in the bylaws. PTA books must be audited semi-annually and at any time a financial officer resigns or no longer serves in that position. A PTA audit is a formal review of PTA's financial records and its internal controls. PTA financial records include financial records, financial reports, and financial forms. The PTA Executive Board and the auditor should be familiar with each of these records. The ledger is the principal book for recording financial transactions. The ledger is used to track all receipts and disbursements. It's a permanent record that must be retained forever. The checkbook register is used to track the balance of the checking account. All bank deposits, checks written, and any other account debits and credits are recorded and balanced in the checkbook register. The cash receipt book is used to track coins and dollar bills received. The treasurer or financial secretary must write a cash receipt for any coins or dollar bills received. Cash receipts are retained for 7 years. Monthly bank statements with copies of canceled checks must be retained for 7 years. Deposit slips are used to deposit funds to the PTA bank account. The original slip is given to the bank. A copy of the slip should be attached to the cash verification form that corresponds to the funds received. Deposit slips are retained for 1 year. Original receipts and invoices are attached to the payment authorization form that corresponds with the payment made. Receipts and invoices are retained for 7 years. The Executive Board and Auditor should be familiar with PTA financial reports. Treasurer reports report the previous balance, receipts, disbursements, and ending balance of each PTA bank account for the accounting period between meetings. Treasurers also report budget updates. Financial Secretary reports report receipts and deposits for each PTA bank account for the accounting period between meetings. Committee reports report the details of planned programs and activities, including the date the program was approved by the association and financial details. The most recently approved audit reports report the ending account balances of the previous accounting period, which are the beginning account balances for the subsequent accounting period. They also aid the auditor with identifying any ongoing concerns and with recommendations. Audit reports must be retained forever. Meeting minutes for both board and association meetings are used to verify board and association approval of programs, budgets, and expenses. Minutes must be retained forever. The Executive Board and Auditor should be familiar with PTA's financial forms. Cash verification forms are used to record all PTA income and corresponding bank deposits. Bank deposit slips are attached to corresponding cash verification forms. Cash verification forms are retained for 7 years. Payment authorization forms are used to record payments. Original bills, receipts, and invoices are attached to their corresponding payment authorization forms. These forms are retained for 7 years. Unit remittance forms are used to record money remitted to council, district, or state PTAs, including membership dues, the annual insurance premium, any late charges, any workers' compensation surcharges, any Founders Day free will offering, or any council or district PTA assessments. Unit remittance forms are retained for 7 years. A PTA audit is a formal review of PTA's financial records and its internal controls. Internal controls are an organization's rules and procedures that safeguard its assets. PTA internal controls pertain to the association, the executive board, and to individual officers. The executive board and auditor should be familiar with PTA internal controls that pertain to association members. Action is taken at association meetings and recorded in meeting minutes. Association members authorize all programs and fundraising events. Association members authorize all payments. Association members adopt the annual budget and approve any changes to the budget. Association members elect officers annually at the annual election meeting. The executive board and auditor should be familiar with PTA internal controls that pertain to the executive board. Executive board members are fiduciaries of the association and are trusted and legally liable to protect the assets of the organization, to ensure compliance with all laws, to meet the needs of the children and members, to ensure continuity, to ensure that the association remains transparent, that PTA members are given the opportunity to participate in decision-making and to view financial reports, to ensure the association is carrying out the purposes of PTA. The executive board governs PTA committees. Committee chairmen present plans to the executive board for approval. No work may be undertaken without approval of the board. As a whole, the board transacts necessary business, authorizes the payment of association bills, receives written financial reports from the treasurer and financial secretary, and presents board reports at association meetings. The executive board is subject to the orders of the association and meets at least once a month during the school year, at least 14 days prior to association meetings. The executive board and auditor should be familiar with PTA internal controls that pertain to individual PTA officers. The treasurer prepares all payment authorization forms and pays all bills as authorized by the executive board or association. The treasurer secures 2 authorized signatures on all checks, keeps the membership informed of expenditures as they relate to the budget, and presents a treasurer's report at every board and association meeting. The financial secretary gives a receipt for money received, records all receipts, presents a report at every board and association meeting, and makes an annual report to the association. The auditor audits the books and financial records semi-annually and whenever a check signer resigns. The auditor may not be related to any check signer. The auditor verifies that the annual insurance premium has been paid and that tax returns have been filed. The president signs all payment authorization forms, contracts, and checks as authorized by the association. The secretary signs all payment authorization forms as authorized by the association. The secretary records all expenditures in board and association meeting minutes. PTA's audit procedure is described in the California State PTA Toolkit. Using PTA's audit checklist as a guide, the auditor examines PTA's financial records and its internal controls, conferring with the president and financial officers as needed. The auditor completes the audit report and presents the report and checklist along with any recommendations to the executive board. The audit report is then presented at an association meeting for adoption.